I'm a woman. As I've gotten older, I've watched the men around me, friends and friends of friends, marry women they really didn't want to marry. They've even admitted it, each saying they did it because they were dating her for more than 5 years and felt pressured to make it official. Some have told me they didn't feel like their girlfriend was their soulmate or even a good match, but the pressure was becoming too great, and their girlfriend of more than 5 years and her family were starting to get impatient, so they did it. We talk a lot about women settling, but nothing about how often men do. I think people should get married out of love, commitment, and admiration. People should get married happily and excitedly. Men who married their longtime girlfriends due to pressure alone, are you happy? Or would you warn against it? Story 1. I felt pressured by the fact that if I didn't commit to her, she wouldn't want to stay. It was clear when we started dating that she wanted children, and after 4 years together, we got married. Honestly, it went really well. I had a moment on our honeymoon where I felt the muscles in my neck relax for the first time ever. I told my counselor that I was finally safe enough to be emotionally authentic with someone. I had about 6 months with our newborn that were pure gold, as golden as surviving sleep deprivation can be. My wife was diagnosed with cancer when our son was 10 months old. She died 6 days before his first birthday. It's been just over 2 years since her death, and I am laid off, depressed, in chronic pain, and now alone. So no, I am not happy. The alternate universe where Soph did not get cancer is probably extremely happy now, I imagine. Though with my own health developments, if she hadn't gotten sick, maybe I would be single anyway. My curse persists. Hopefully this is my last lifetime under its shadow. Story 2. I am going to be one of the few people here who say yes. My girlfriend at the time had children. Her first marriage was a disaster. I had a decent manufacturing job and was utterly smitten with her. She needed me to marry her for health insurance and practical reasons like buying a house. So we married. I will admit that at the time I was hesitant. Almost 35 years later, I am still very happy. The children are grown. I moved up in my career from the factory into engineering. My career is great. The children are all out of the house with a few grandchildren. My wife and I travel the world. We are still very close and have a strong relationship. Story 3. I got married out of pressure, subtle as it may have been. We dated for about 4 years. That marriage lasted for 3 years. Those 7 years felt like decades. After that divorce, I married my second wife after dating for about 9 months. The 22 years we have been together have gone by in the blink of an eye. While it is only a single data point, it strongly suggests you are right, original poster. Story 4. I got married under pressure. I met a girl and got deployed. I wrote to her all the time. My team noticed and contacted the Wives Club. The women all met and decided for me that she was the one. They arranged the wedding for when we returned. 7 days later, I married her and still am married 52 years later. Story 5. My wife and I were troublemakers in our youth. Both high school dropouts. I was a construction laborer and she was a cab driver. She had her general educational development certificate and was trying the community college route but was struggling due to the overnight cab job when we started dating. I had no interest in higher education. I was happy in the trades and could find a job anywhere I traveled to. In the early stages of our relationship, we partied at concerts and festivals, with nothing to show for our work, renting an apartment in the worst part of town, and having problems paying bills. Together, we wanted to start growing up. I got my general educational development certificate and started saving money weekly. She earned her associate degree, and then we stagnated. One night, she was robbed in her cab, which led her to want to continue her education and not be stuck driving a cab the rest of her life. She was accepted to a school 450 miles away. We talked about moving so she could go to school. I didn't want to move without assurance we were in this together. I didn't want to lose her either. I had enough saved up for a ring, so I took my 2 younger brothers to help me pick one out. I felt like I was rushing. We had only been dating for 2 years, but it felt like I was going to lose the best thing that had happened to me at 23. I proposed with doubt in my gut. I explained why I was proposing and what she meant to me. She cried and said yes. Our wedding was very inexpensive, but it was ours. We moved, and I got a job that allowed me to provide a roof over our heads and food in our bellies so she could focus full-time on college. She graduated summa cum laude with a 4.0 grade point average. We have grown even more since then. We will celebrate our 14th wedding anniversary this June. She is my best friend, my queen, and the most important gut feeling I ever chased. I couldn't imagine walking through this chaotic world with anyone else. Story 6. I promised my first fiancé because I felt like that was what I should do. I was very happy that it did not work out and was called off a few months later. Fast forward to my wedding day, and my stepfather-in-law asked if I was sure. Without hesitation, I said, "I have never been so sure of anything in my life." You do not have to be that assertive, but if you have any legitimate doubts about your future with this person, it might be best not to go through with it. Story 7. Sometimes, maybe 30% of the time, definitely not my soulmate. I am not sure that is something I believe in, though. She is not a bad person, but she hid some compatibility issues. Now that we are married and living in a house, she has the image that she wants, and that is just where things are for now. Story 8. I dated a woman for 3 years, but she started pressuring me to get married about 6 months into the relationship. We broke up and got back together several times during those 3 years. After our second to last breakup, I decided that I would marry her. I finally proposed, but she turned me down, saying that she did not want to be the woman I settled for. We broke up for good a short while later. I met my wife about a year later. We dated for about 3 months before we moved in together, and we have been happy ever since. It has been 13 years now. Story 9. I was indirectly pressured by external events. I was at a stage with my girlfriend where everything was going fantastic, and I saw no reason why I would not propose eventually if we continued on the same trajectory. However, I had a job change looming, and it came down to moving with her as my wife or trying long distance again, which had not worked in previous relationships. So, I ended up proposing earlier than usual. Had everything else been equal, I probably would have waited. But things worked out. She became the kind of loving wife and mother to our children that I had always dreamed of. I guess I got lucky, but the complete lack of any red flags early in our relationship was a good sign that she was worth the leap. I was heavily pressured to marry an ex before meeting my wife, and thank God I got out of that before making what would have been the worst mistake of my life. Story 10. Happily married now, but I almost went down this path, and the answer almost guaranteed would have been no. Marriage does not fix anything. It would be like buying a car you did not like but knowing you are stuck with it for the rest of your life, multiplied by 20 times. Genuinely great and very thoughtful question though. Story 11. I got engaged right before a deployment because the pressure was constant and suffocating. I got the propose before you leave or we're done 2 days before deployment orders began, and I did. The following morning, my first coherent thought was, what have I done? While deployed, we argued a lot, and at some point I realized I would be a fool to continue. I called it off when I got home, moved my things out, and ultimately moved on. For any guys reading this, don't cave to pressure. It is okay to leave even if there is significant time investment. Listen to your gut. Story 12. I will start by saying I absolutely love my wife. She is a great person who makes me better and supports me. We started dating when I was 15 and never had a lot of friction throughout high school, just hanging out and being silly. I kind of figured we would grow apart after high school, but we ended up going to the same college and stayed together. Once I graduated, she followed me several states away when I got my first job out of college, and after that, I figured we might as well get married. I would not necessarily say that we are soulmates, but we both put in the effort to make our relationship work over the years, which is more than I can say about some of our other friends. Is there someone out there who might be a better fit for both of us? Maybe, but sometimes you have to appreciate what you have, not what you could have. Story 13. I got my girlfriend pregnant when I was 23. I thought she was on birth control. However, she stopped taking it without telling me. I believed she was committed to me, but there were many red flags. I married her out of shame because I did not want to have a baby out of wedlock. Then she joined the army as part of her plan. You cannot join the military as a single parent. She planned to divorce me once she got what she needed from me. 2 children later and 21 years down the line, we are divorced. It broke me for 2 solid years. I had to get counseling and find myself. I am better now and have found true love. I wish none of it had happened. It also affected my daughter growing up with her. My sons were not as impacted. I wish I had a chance to redo it. Story 14. Absolutely do not do it. I was in this scenario exactly 5 years and then 8 years of marriage, 13 years gone. My girlfriend now is the love of my life, and everyone I have dated since I broke it off the moment I knew it was not what I wanted long term. I will never make a mistake with my life like that again. It is not worth giving up your time when this life we all get is so short. Story 15. She told me after we were together for 2 years or so, if you do not plan to marry me, do not waste my time. I proposed shortly after, the best choice I have ever made. Story 16. Plenty of men go through with it because saying no feels harder than living with the decision. You are 5+ years in, everyone is waiting, and it feels easier to just get married than to deal with the fallout. But that easier choice turns into quiet resentment. You start living a life you did not actively choose, just one you did not say no to. That is a brutal way to coast through your 30s. Story 17. Dodged a bullet like this myself. No one really counsels you about this as a man. The masculine culture of sleep with girls and it makes you cool and date a lot of women for fun in your early 20s if left unchecked can feel like you end up in a game of musical chairs as you enter your mid to late 20s. There's a girl you've been with pursuant to that original philosophy who isn't always the best partner on a longer-term basis. Combine that with the struggle for many men to find anyone for a long partnership and the inherent comfort of a long-term relationship, even if it's not necessarily a great one, and you can see the dilemma. Society places that pressure on many people to get married, and in many cases more so on women. Finally, combine that with the years of baby boomer marriage humor that many of us grew up with, where marriage is socialized to be a ball and chain, and you can see how this comes together to make marriage seem like just something you do because you are supposed to, rather than a function of a deep and strong connection between two people. Especially if some of these men grew up with their parents not having happy marriages. To many, that type of relationship sounds like a fairy tale. So why not just take what's already here so you're not alone without a chair when that game of musical chairs ends? I imagine many men reading this can attest to how that way of doing things tends to fall apart over a longer time basis. Story 18. It happened to me once. I had only been with her for a year. She kept asking when we were going to get married. Then one night she had a few drinks and really got going. I gave in just to make it end. I broke up with her a few weeks later. I did not want to marry someone who was always pressuring me into what she wanted. But I imagine some men would stick it out. Story 19. I do not know, but knowing you are the placeholder girlfriend is difficult. I am 3 years in with my partner, and in my gut, I know he is just not that into me. I am working on the courage to leave. I will be married within 2 years to the one after him. Story 20. I know a man who married an abusive woman who pressured him into it. Shortly afterward, he was diagnosed with cancer. I remember him talking to me, hoping for some reassurance that I could not provide. He died alone and miserable. I have been pressured to marry more than once. I have always managed to resist, but saying no often ended the relationship. Story 21. My question to the men answering here: why would you date someone for more than 5 years if you did not feel like they were your soulmate, with or without the marriage pressure? Story 22. I wish people would focus on the day-to-day vibe and test things out a bit. It's strange when someone thinks they have you figured out and immediately starts working through their list of life goals. The escalator. An initial attraction, a short time together, and some intimacy don't mean much. Not everyone wants to get married, have children, or travel to trendy holiday destinations. How about a few wide-ranging conversations and some laughter to make sure we actually enjoy spending time together? Well done to those who have found that. As people have said here, compatibility goes a long way. I stopped going to weddings after a while because of all the divorces, and then you get an invite to the second wedding. No thanks. Story 23. My daughter is getting divorced after 5 years. Her husband said he had not felt happy for a long time. He chose to get her a ring. They lived in an apartment for a while and then bought a house. I guess he could have felt pressure, but at the same time, he made the choice to ask her to marry him and buy a house. His own parents told him he should not get divorced. Story 24. My sister tried to pressure a guy she was casually seeing to commit to her, to be exclusive, after about a year of fooling around. Me and everyone else said, "Why don't you just find someone who actually wants to be with you?" She gave many excuses. "He does like me, he does want this." In her defense, he gave her mixed signals because nobody else was willing to sleep with him, so he led her on. I don't think she's the devil here. I find most relationship problems aren't one-sided. Anyway, she was trying hard to pressure him, and he never gave in. They broke up, and he immediately committed to the next girl he was with. My sister was upset for about a month and is now over it and matured. I asked her why she pushed him when he clearly didn't like her that much. She said it was the ego boost of someone actually wanting her. She finally admitted she didn't even like him that much either. I don't think she has thought of him more than 5 times in the 4 years since they broke up. They were a total mismatch. She values health, is fit, and ambitious even if she's not super experienced. She talks, is hilarious, makes new friends easily, is cultured, and has a myriad of interests. She asks questions, is fun, non-judgmental, and likes to go out. She is a bit crazy. He is very overweight and makes no effort to get in shape, constantly complaining. He is so boring that sitting near him without even talking makes time feel extremely slow. He has no interests besides video games, doesn't care about his work, and wants a simple life. She has been in love with someone else for the last 4 years and hasn't pressured him at all. She leaves him alone when he asks and does not fool around. Men and women both act differently with someone they really value compared to someone they want for ego stroking. Story 25. I was with my former partner for 3.5 years. We moved in together far too soon within the first 2 months. In our first year, we talked about getting married for insurance reasons, but we both decided it was not right. We had a good relationship overall, but there were some compatibility issues. Honestly, we would have broken up sooner if I had found somewhere else to live one time when we split up. We are both immigrants, and the city where we live has very high rents along with strict requirements for renters, which are hard for many immigrants to comply with. Towards the end, I had been thinking about proposing. I went to my home country for the first time in 8 years, but when I returned, things felt different between us. Suddenly, marriage seemed like an awful idea. At the same time, I was feeling increasing pressure from her and her family to get married. I knew it was not right for me, and it would not have been fair to her. They say that if you get on a train going in the wrong direction, it is better to get off sooner rather than ride it out to the destination. Story 26. Married after 3 years, I did not want to. Not because I did not love her. I just hated the idea of involving the government in any aspect of my life if I did not have to. Still married, 15 years now. I love her more now than I did then. She has inspired me to grow and become a better man. Story 27. If it is not a resounding yes from both parties, then they should not get married. Many men stay with a woman because they do not feel they have options. It is better the devil they know than the dating scene. Some develop a form of Stockholm Syndrome. Many men do not truly see how difficult their wives are until they leave. The sense of relief they feel is immense. Story 28. My wife did her best to hide her character flaws. Pressured to propose, she turned to anger as I pushed hard to plan the wedding. She started cheating on me out of frustration but got pregnant, and the child was mine. She made a complete turnaround and showed her true colors. But I was insistent on taking my responsibility. We had ups and downs where she convinced me she actually cared, even having a second child. She second guesses and criticizes everything I do. 14 years later, my mental health is in shambles. I am a functioning alcoholic and morbidly obese from overeating and drinking. I am in a foreign country, so child custody is incredibly in favor of my wife. She won't leave because she needs my salary. I am waiting for the kids to turn 18 and be able to go out on their own, or for a fatal accident to take me out. Whichever comes first. My kids are wonderful people at least, although my daughter is entering her teenage years, so our relationship is a little strained at the moment. Story 29. How about not dating a girl for 5 years and then saying things like, she is not my soulmate? A man knows what is going on within 3 months. It does not take 5 years to figure it out. Story 30. I also think that what can feel like pressure to some feels like communication to others. Sometimes, if enough time passes, both parties need to have clarity. It is the hallmark of someone with enough self-interest and emotional maturity who does not blame external forces like pressure for their own decision-making. Unless there is actual, true blackmail or coercion going on, such as an ultimatum like marry her or I get the shotgun, the pressure is circumstantial and whatever decision is made should be owned. Source: a woman who asked for clarity about where the relationship was going and was blamed for being pressuring. We are no longer together. Story 31. The real question is, if they felt this way, why didn't they break up with their girlfriend at some point during those 5 years? Realistically, if you are with someone for 5 years and one wants marriage after 2 years while the other does not, someone has to compromise or the relationship should end. If your friends say they were pressured and still wish they had not been, why are they still with their partners? If they are looking for perfect compatibility and love, they would have known by now and should keep looking. Story 32. From what I have seen within my circles, I think it is a lack of confidence and proper understanding of what these men want due to their conditioning. Within South Asian communities, many times marriage happens because of social pressure rather than a genuine desire to take on responsibility and love. This is why parents recommend their son or daughter talk to a prospective partner. If there are no clear major differences and the parents like the prospect and their family, then the marriage proceeds. Story 33. Married at 23, divorced by 32. Gentlemen, if you are not happy in your relationship, either fix it or move on. Trust me, your happiness is waiting for you. I regret nothing. The debt, the bad credit, the whole child custody and support. I would do it all over again 1,000,000 times if it meant I did not have to spend another day in that marriage. Story 34. I was 18, and the only reason I brought up the idea of marriage with my girlfriend was because I was joining the army, and it would let her have the benefits since we were both poor. Sometime later, I was woken up by two friends in my room, loudly telling me I could not sleep in, to hurry up and get dressed because I was getting married. I went to the courthouse that day. I got married in an orange gymnastics team t-shirt and black cargo shorts. She was wearing black trip skinny jeans. It has been a little over 13 years since then. She is the woman I love, and she loves me, and we are both chasing our dreams. Probably used up all of my luck because my Pathfinder rolls are very bad. But you win some, lose some. Story 35. No, I'm not happy. This summer will mark 22 years of marriage for us. We're friends and co-parents, but we've agreed that the romantic and physical aspects of our relationship are over. If I had listened to my instincts way back when, I wouldn't have gotten married. Some part of me knew we weren't a good fit, but I convinced myself it was the right thing to do. I was wrong. After we married, I realized that my wife was not in love with me, but rather with a person she felt I had the potential to become. She tried to steer me toward becoming that person, sometimes rather harshly. I thought that if I kept trying, I would figure out how to be that person. Turns out I was wrong about that too. We have talked about separating, but we can't afford to right now. It's frustrating because I want to move on with my life, and I know she wants to move on with hers. We just can't figure out how to do it, so we remain in this limbo-like situation. My advice to anyone who isn't sure about getting married is not to do it. Just don't do it. Break up. Find someone else or live the life you want as a single person. Find someone who you truly love and admire and who truly loves and admires you. Don't let anyone pressure you into getting married. It won't end well. Story 36. I don't understand why men stay in a relationship long enough to settle. If she is not the one, let her go instead of wasting years of her life stringing her along. Story 37. There is no pressure to marry. If you have been with a woman for more than 4 years and she is willing to make you a sandwich, wash your underwear, and perform oral sex, but you do not want to marry her, just leave. It is incredibly selfish to say, I was pressured into marriage. For many years, you were in a committed relationship with a person you did not see a future with, while keeping her under the impression that she was the one for you. Break up and let her find someone who considers her worthy. Story 38. I didn't go through with it but had a girlfriend of 7 years I got engaged to. After about 5 years, she started pressuring me. It's a harder situation than you think from the outside. As a young 20-something, I was afraid of being lonely and figured that gut feeling telling me not to commit was just a fear of commitment, something I just needed to get over. She cheated and everything got called off, which was extremely painful, but in hindsight, really the best thing that could have happened. My fears were erased in my next relationship where I felt comfortable marrying her less than a year in, and we've been together 6 years since. But I understand why men would settle. Dating is chaotic, and as a man, it's a constant race of how much value you can provide. The horror stories are everywhere, as I'm sure they are for women too. Men are really good at settling into what's comfortable, and sometimes a mediocre relationship is what's comfortable, as sad as it is to say. Story 39. Don't do it. It's my only advice. You'll make her happy temporarily and make yourself miserable while also risking half your net worth. Story 40. Married due to social and religious pressure. The divorce taught me that religion and social pressure are things I do not need in my life. I am happier than ever now. Story 41. I am 24 years old and newly married. I felt pressure after my then 29, now 30-year-old wife proposed to me. Honestly, her family treats me well and makes me feel like their son, so I do not regret it. Do I struggle with my emotions? Yes. Do I tell her? No. The last thing I want is for her or anyone else to say they struggle to love me. I know when she has gone off to work or errands that I miss her and enjoy spending time with her. That tells me all I need to know about whether I love her or not. Story 42. Yes. I'm gonna guess my reasoning isn't too uncommon, but I think I had some serious commitment issues due to being cheated on twice in earlier relationships, which caused me to hold back. When I first started dating my now wife, I was completely head over heels. I had never been with a woman I was not only seriously attracted to but also loved spending time with more than anyone else. Now, she is literally my favorite person to spend my time with. We started dating at the end of 2018, moved in together right before the coronavirus pandemic shut everything down, and dated for 5 years before I finally proposed to her. It's still early, but she's now pregnant with our son, and I have zero doubt that I will be with her for the rest of my life. Looking back, I think I was so dumb in my reasoning to wait. Story 43. I knew my wife for less than 5 months. You know when the time is right. We have been together for 42 years, and I would do it again. Story 44. I was with my ex for about 3 years before she pressured me into getting engaged and eventually gave me an ultimatum. We ended up getting engaged. I dragged my feet for years, and we were slowly planning the wedding, but I knew I didn't want to go through with it and could tell it would eventually lead to divorce. We were compatible but not good lovers or partners. I finally decided to leave her 6 months before the wedding, then somehow met my soulmate 1 month afterward. We are now married and have a beautiful child together. If someone is pressuring you into marriage, especially if they give an ultimatum, they do not care about your feelings enough. Waiting for things to get better is settling. Never settle. Story 45. It has been a long time now, but to answer the question, no, I was not. I was miserable. I wasted 9 years of my life before giving up. On the contrary, divorcing her was one of the best decisions I have ever made. Although I have never remarried, I have also never been happier in certain ways. Story 46. Marriage lasted just about 2 years after dating for about 3. If you propose because she expects it or you feel like you ought to, or because it seems logical, and not because you have dated her for more than 2 years and cannot imagine your life without her, you are in for a bad time. Story 47. We were together for 8 years. Finally, she asked, "So are we doing this?" I really did not think a ring would change anything after 8 years. It did not. We still love each other exactly the same, but it was important to her. I just got back from a day spa to celebrate our 3rd anniversary. Story 48. I went through that at one point, but in the back of my mind, I knew all the abuse she put me through meant it wasn't right for me. She made my life a living hell for 5 years. I was 17 when we first met, and she was 31. She pressured me every day to buy her a ring and make it official, but I'm glad we didn't. I ended things before it became official because she wasn't the right one for me. Years later, I met the absolute love of my life who has been my rock since then. I will be asking her to marry me this summer. Story 49. My wife and I got married because we were expecting a child together. I have never been a fan of marriage as an institution but believe in partnerships. My view is that it does not require a ring to become family, but in my country, the government does. To make things easier for both my wife and child, I asked her to marry me. She is very happy with it. I get to be the father that my daughter deserves legally. I would have been that regardless, but there is a lot of stigma and obstacles in my society. Therefore, I am happy. I do not need marriage to be happy, but being married does not make me unhappy. To me, it is about partnership, and both my wife and daughter deserve plenty since I love both of them. Story 50. Not really happy. It is a chore. And once living together started, it is just a burden every time. We are very different people and have different interests, goals, and lifestyles. Frankly, I am still sticking around because of responsibility and commitment, but am I enjoying myself? The answer is a hard no. Story 51. I did this. It drained my soul. I struggled with alcohol, depression, binge eating, and self-harm. I am happily married now. Do not feel guilty about marriage unless it is what you truly want. Story 52. I almost did. I was starting to save for it, and all after dating 3 years. Luckily, she was impatient enough to cheat on me. I have since realized that my heart really was not there and have been thankful to get a clear view. If you think someone is not the one, please break up with them. I met my wife and knew pretty quickly that she was the one. Story 53. I am not a man, so I am not going to specifically answer the question, but I want to share this perspective. I feel there is a difference between men feeling pressured into marrying a woman they are not sure they want to be with, and men feeling pressured into marrying a woman they know they want to share their lives with but are not interested in a wedding or marriage. Story 54. Really good and interesting question. Sorry, I do not have anything to add myself, other than that pressure itself can be the major problem. Story 55. I felt pressure being from the Midwest and needing to settle down early and have children by age 23 or 25. I thought she was the right one for me, but I think we both ignored the warning signs. We divorced on our 1-year anniversary. That year was not miserable. I think we had a pretty good time, but the last 2 months were terrible. Story 56. People act like they cannot just communicate. It is not brain surgery, folks. If you do not want to do something, do not do it. I have never understood neurotypical people and their problem with communicating and saying it how it is. Maybe it is just my autism, but it seems like common sense to me. You get nothing out of lying except unhappiness. Everyone would be much happier if they could just be truthful about everything. Story 57. My brother did, and it was a huge mistake. She thought that after the marriage, once the child arrived a year later, things would be great. He had changed, and she would live her traditional Catholic life with him. Little did she know he was pressured by her family. He gave in but still wanted to hang out and mess around. They divorced a year later after their unnecessarily expensive Catholic wedding, and she still holds a grudge 20 years later. Story 58. I will give you an opposite take. I dated someone who might have been the one. Best chemistry I have ever had with anyone. Her friends were all getting married. She pressured me. I had a few reservations which I felt might be resolved by dating a while longer. She gave me an ultimatum, and even though I loved her dearly, I said I was not ready. We had a huge ugly argument, and neither of us were the fighting type. She ended the relationship. Fast forward 8 years later, she calls me. She said she thinks about me all the time and hinted about getting back together, even though the man she was dating had just proposed to her. I said no and ended communication. It is now 25 years later. She married that man and was divorced in 2 years. I am still single. It is quite possible we were right for each other. I loved her more than anyone I have ever met, but the way it ended destroyed any chance of reconciliation. So when a woman's friends tell her to leave a man, saying, he is just using you, He is not serious about you. Tell her this story. Men are not always the bad guy. Story 59. Not happy. It was hell. After many years, I am living separately and I am happy for the first time in 15 years. Story 60. I married my wife because we both wanted it. We dated for 10 years before getting married. Two couples felt pressured because they thought their relationship was better than ours. One couple is very unhappy, and I actually feel bad for them. One couple is okay, but they only got married because they felt they had to. I would say marriage does not work more often than it does. Marriage is signing a contract with another person. You have to trust them completely and be sure you want this. Story 61. Felt pressured at 19. It was a mistake, but I made the best of it. Still friends 40 years and 3 children later, but the 12 years we were married were very difficult. She was almost 6 years older than I was. There were more red flags than a Chinese marching band. All good now, though. I do not recommend it. Story 62. I didn't get married but ended my relationship with my high school sweetheart over this. We spent 5 years together during and after high school, both immature kids who clearly didn't know what we wanted. She ghosted me and broke up with me pretty much. 3 years later, she contacted me asking if we could meet up. She told me she wanted a second chance, considering we were both older and much more mature. I said, let's try it and see. Even though we got along very well, I had to end the relationship after 3 months. I couldn't see her as the person I wanted to spend my life with. I came to the conclusion that I didn't love her and told her as much. I saw no point in wasting her time or mine. I didn't want to be the person who ended up regretting the decision to stay with her, only to grow resentment for her and my own decisions. It wouldn't have been fair to either of us, so I let her go. Story 63. My friend did that. It was not really pressure. They had been together for 7 to 8 years and were at that stage in life where you either commit or move on. Things were not bad, so they got married instead of breaking up. They split about 6 years later. It was as amicable as possible. She helped set up his dating profile, and they do an activity together every weekend so their child feels some continuity and does not think they hate each other. Story 64. Felt pressured, though? Maybe only in the sense that if I didn't propose then, it probably wouldn't last. She was moving across the country, and I was willing to drop everything and leave everyone. Yesterday, after 12.5 years of marriage and 2 beautiful, wonderful kids, she told me she wanted a divorce. And I'm happy about it. I'm obviously torn for my kids, and I hold hope that somehow we can reconcile. But I am a man, and a man's got to do what a man's got to do. Can't be any other way now. My piece of advice: take risks and find out anyway. It's worth the heartache. Character growth. Blessings, curses, hardships, times of abundance, honeymoons, and yelling matches. The kids have been harmed by this, but they know that they are loved much more than the hardships we're all facing now. We taught them that together and by example. I'm exhausted and beat up, but I'll get back on my feet again. And when I do, watch out. Story 65. My dad married because of pressure from my mom. While they have been married for 40 years, there is no way to describe it as a happy marriage. At first, they stayed together for us kids. Then, when we had grown and moved out, they stayed together to avoid financial difficulties, although this was not true since they had enough wealth. Now it is clear that they have stayed together purely out of fear. We kids have told them to separate. Even though they are both wonderful people, I would like nothing more than to see them enjoy their golden years with better matched company. Story 66. Just to put this out there as perspective, there is a whole subreddit dedicated to women who are impatient over their boyfriends not proposing to them. Story 67. Never marry anyone for anything other than love. Not for an accidental pregnancy, not because you have been with them for a long time. It will ruin your life. Story 68. I proposed because I felt pressured by her showing me pictures of rings and wedding details. Then she decided she did not like the ring and wanted a bigger diamond. So we went back and got a bigger diamond for the ring. A couple of months later, she decided she did not want to be with me anymore. She took everything in my house and left, except the ring, which has been at the jewelry store on sale for a couple of years now. So much time, energy, and money were lost. It was not worth it. Story 69. I had the opposite experience. I dated a woman for about 3 years. I lived at home with my parents when we met. I moved out with her after a while. I knew the goal was to marry her, but I wasn't quite ready since I had just moved out of my parents' home. She pressured me to get married, so I proposed. I ended up loving marriage. We had a daughter. She had a son from a previous relationship, whom I gladly adopted. Felt like I had my perfect little family. Not even 2 years into the marriage, she started acting differently. It turned out she was seeing another woman and ultimately left me for her. It is always hard not to feel like I was just a bucket list item before she entered that relationship. For the sake of our children, I try to bury those thoughts, but it is extremely difficult. As much as I loved being married, I don't know if I would do it again. Story 70. I did not really want to get married. I just wanted to love someone who loved me back for who I was. My 20s were fraught with societal guilt, where any men who did not want to marry were somehow considered immature. I went ahead and did it for 2 reasons. First, I was afraid my girlfriend was buying into it and that I would start getting shamed or broken up with for not doing it. We had already broken up and reunited several times over many years. And second, I was tired of not being taken seriously as an adult since I had moved out and fully supported myself a week before my 21st birthday. During the Great Recession, we bought a house together and got married the year I turned 30. The honeymoon phase was barely over, and instead of societal pressure to get married, it became societal pressure to have children. Meanwhile, I had started going to therapy and finally learning about codependency and how to avoid it. Combined with other things like practicing assertive communication, revisiting all my old baggage from my work, my family upbringing, my earlier lack of dating success outside of that one person, and our long history of breakups before eventually getting married. I had known this person for around 14 to 15 years total since we met and began dating, but the marriage only lasted for 2 years. I would say if pressure is the only reason to do it, that is a bad reason. Story 71. I cannot speak for myself, but I recently talked to my father about this topic. He said yes, he regretted it and would not do it again. He and my mother are still married, approaching their 36th anniversary. Story 72. I cannot say much about my side of things. My parents have been married for 35 years. They met and got married a month later. They still hold hands while walking around in their 60s. He has dated more than 200 women but says my mom is one of maybe 4 he could see working out with. Supposedly, my mom was sitting on the bed crying, feeling she was living a life of sin. Her side of the family is very Catholic. My dad said, "Let's get married," and they drove to Las Vegas. He has had a roller coaster life from meth dealer to pastor. My mom has her own physical problems, and I am uncertain who will go first. But if she passes first, I hope I am enough support to help him not give up in the next year. He would definitely be lost without her and probably speaks of her praises that no one else sees. Story 73. The people who pressure you into marriage do so because they think you are their only chance of getting married, or they want to control you for their own benefit. If anyone pressures you, just walk away. Story 74. My ex-wife gave me an ultimatum, and that was part of the reason for the divorce. You should never feel pressured to marry. Story 75. An interesting question. There is always so much external pressure on a man if they have been together long enough. There are accusations of wasting a person's time if marriage is not brought up after a couple of years. Story 76. I think in many cases, the man is comfortable just being in a relationship. The responsibility and effort are on the man to make something happen, but getting married does not really offer anything for the man. Most men are fine just dating someone indefinitely, but the pressure often comes either from women or outside sources to get married and settle down. Personally, I have very little interest in playing house or taking care of children, so the idea of settling down misses the mark on how I would like to live my life with a partner. At the end of the day, if a man is getting all the benefits of being married without having to pay for it or commit half of his assets, he will not have much desire to change the situation. Story 77. I think I might be going through this right now even though I am only 19. I met this girl a year ago and we hit it off. I put her on a pedestal, and within a couple of months, we were talking about marriage and children and everything, which at the time I had no problems with. However, we had a fight at the beginning of last year's fall semester, which led me to cut off all my college friends. She is the only person I really talk to consistently now, and I feel like I have become lost in her, if that makes any sense. Story 78. As a late bloomer, I had issues dating girls with more experience. My personality growing up was more low-key and reserved. I found a girl I could relate to, and after over 3 years of dating, we got married. She was more introverted than me. Since I could never seriously date or marry women with much more experience than me, I figured she was the best I could get. We have been married just over 20 years. No children, as she mentally could never handle raising kids. As time passes, I realize she has some traits similar to Asperger's syndrome. We do not have a sexless marriage by any means, but my libido is much higher than hers. She is a night owl and works a job that fits that lifestyle. She is a borderline recluse and does not want to do anything that requires getting up early on days off, such as hiking or attending festivals. She only wants to attend minimal family events. At one point, I almost had an affair as I was longing for a more engaged partner. I told her I wanted a divorce. That would have destroyed her. She begged for no divorce and started anxiety medication. There were some improvements, and I decided to stay. Overall, my wife is a loyal partner, has a good work ethic, stays in great shape for her age, and is a loving spouse. Things could be much worse. My only advice is not to settle for someone who does not share the same wants, desires, life activities, and experiences that you do. I really like day trips to festivals, places of interest, and good day hikes. I am often alone on these travels and sometimes long for a partner to enjoy them with. My fear of being alone somewhat pressured me into getting married. Overall, my marriage is acceptable. Things could be better in some aspects previously noted. Story 79. Hold on. I am a man and I am happily married. Not the target of this post. But how do you date someone for more than 5 years if you do not intend to marry them? Are you selfish or inconsiderate? What do you want to seriously date for the next 8 or 9 years and then leave them? What is the end goal here? Do you think people are like cars that you get a new one every 3 years? Story 80. Your friends are weak. Why stay with someone for 5 years if you don't think they are good enough for you? Is it because you are weak and fear you can't do better if you move on? Are you afraid of being alone for a period of time? Why waste time with a woman who wants to marry when you don't? Mind you, it is free will, so this is more the fault of the women who stay. But the strong ones who leave and then go back because the man caves and marries them are foolish too. You shouldn't marry someone you had to compel or persuade. Nor should you marry just because you are pressured into it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.